Well, good damn afternoon, Americans. Jericho Green here with you once again. Make sure you guys hit the link in the description box. Brand new merch. And until January 1st, 40% off all green gear. So Trump has recently signed an executive order to expedite the reclassification of marijuana from a what's the word for it? A Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3, which would bring it to the same level as Tylenol with codeine, something you need a prescription for. And he was saying how he's been so heavily lobbied by the cannabis industry to reclassify it for medicinal purposes. There are medicinal qualities to marijuana, the CBD oil that helps with pain and sleep and joint aches and all kinds of stuff. I remember seeing a documentary on cannabis oil, and this little kid had really bad seizures. And you've probably seen the same videos online. This boy, and maybe it's not the same boy, maybe it's a multiple kid. I hope it's multiple kids that this stuff is working this well for. But the little boy had severe seizures and tremors, and his parents would give him the CBD oil from the marijuana, and within minutes he was fine. He was able to talk, he was calm, his body was, I'm talking convulsing. But the state he lived in, it was illegal, and even if they brought it back across state lines, they could get in trouble. So I think they ended up going to Colorado to move there to where their son could have this medicine that helped him immensely, that helped him do damn near a 180. Also, they had some soldiers that came back with PTSD and other issues where the CBD oil, the marijuana, whether it was CBD oil or smoking it to get the THC, it helped them. Can't deny that. We've all heard for years, ever since we were kids, that marijuana is a gateway drug. And I think it very well could be for kids, for people under the age of 18. Some might even say people under the age of 25, because your brain's not done developing until you're 25. So I'll say even under 25. But as far as adults, to be completely honest with you, I don't care. I don't care if marijuana is a gateway drug. If you smoke marijuana and fucking you blink your eyes and you're smoking crack and shooting heroin, that's your problem. I don't give a damn. About the kids, yes. But I don't think all drugs should be legal, because like I said, there are medicinal purposes for marijuana. There's no medicinal purpose for crack or meth or heroin or I was going to say fentanyl, but actually there is. So all those things are out there. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it being reclassified if it helps. Here in California, marijuana has been legal for at least 10 years. And I haven't seen, living here in California, going all over the state, I haven't seen or heard of this huge uptick in crime or drug use because marijuana has been legal. They've gotten a lot of tax revenue from it. Now, they're not spending that properly. We can talk about that. But marijuana has been legal in California for years. And as you know, the legalization of marijuana is not California's problem. That's not our problem. Marijuana doesn't even make it on the list of California's problems. You want to talk the underperformance in schools. You want to talk the pushing and indoctrination with the Ku Klux Trans agenda and the alphabet soup group agenda and homelessness and the high cost of living and overtaxation. We could talk about all that shit, and marijuana can't even make it in the room. And marijuana's standing outside the club like, I want to get in. No, we're packed. We got homelessness and high cost of living and low educational performance up in here. We're full. So marijuana has not been a fucking problem for California. I don't think that marijuana is tearing families apart. The horrific videos like Red Asphalt 1 through 3 that they showed me in high school of the horrific collision scenes, death scenes on the roads and highways of our country, none of them were caused by marijuana. No one's ever said, Dad used to smoke a joint and beat the shit out of my mom. No one says, hey man, I can do all the drugs, but man, when I smoke marijuana, I get violent. No one's ever had to suck a dick for marijuana or give up their vagina for marijuana. At least I hope they didn't. If you did, you got fooled, girl. You got fooled. Guy, they're probably giving it up. They're probably giving up the mouth for drugs, but not for weed. It's just not the same thing. And as long as we have alcohol legal in California, the destruction that visits upon us every single day, the millions of people it's lead smeared across the roadway, the accidents. I've seen people get the shit beat out of them because of alcohol, not marijuana, unless you owed money for it. But under the influence of marijuana, I've never seen anyone get their ass kicked or want to kick someone else's ass. They fall asleep, they eat all your food. But I've never seen two people throwing down when they were high. I've seen plenty of people throw down when they were drunk. I've seen plenty of people get beat up because they were drunk and the way they were acting. Here's another funny story. I've told this one before, I think. I was at a club. I used to be a DJ at a radio station. Not the pukey morning drive DJ. Not that kind of DJ. I did talk on the air, but I wasn't like that. But we used to do these clubs in downtown San Jose every Friday night. And that night we were doing Club Zoe. And this girl, you could spot him out. We've all seen how alcohol works throughout the evening. Starts fun, laughs, and then it gets sad, crying, violence. So this girl, she kind of zeroed in on this one lady, and they always zero in on the ones who aren't drinking, who don't have a problem. For some reason, she chose this woman. Got drunk, fuck, bitch, all this shit. The girl cannot leave me alone, leave me alone. Next thing you know, she serves up a hot 3-piece to this girl's mouth with no biscuit, no drink, just a 3-piece in her mouth, bleeding everywhere. She ends up getting slammed on the trunk of a police car about 10 minutes after that. Never seen that on weed. I've actually been to, with the same radio station, we work the Reggae Fest every year. Irie, man. So you got all, that's where you find them selling the half Bob Marley face, half lion face blanket. But every time I would go there, I would see the cops. It was in Monterey. So Monterey PD was working the event, and I'd see the cops standing around, usually in twos or whatever, and they'd be talking, laughing and shit, because there's nothing to do. Nobody's doing anything. No one's stealing. No one's fighting. No one's arguing. The lines at the food trucks are long. There's a lot of weed in the air, but no problem. I remember always thinking, man, this must be the easiest gig for a cop to have. Never saw any incident. I'd see people sitting out near the beer garden with their head in their hands, in between their knees, throwing up because they got the crossfade. You know what the crossfade is? The crossfade is when you mix weed and alcohol. So I've seen people in that kind of situation, but nothing bad ever. And like I said, marijuana has been legal in California for at least a decade. So it's for medicinal purposes. I'm all for it. And also, that's why you have marijuana illegal, at least in the state of California, was because William Randolph Hearst, he would always have, and also growing up in California, and people that come out here from other places go to it, but in California as a kid in school, you're probably going to end up going to Hearst Castle for a field trip. And I ended up going with my family. And you learn about all the people he had visiting his house, and it's more than just a house. It's a sprawling estate. But all these powerful people would come to his house for parties and stuff, people who, made rules, governors and senators and councilmen and stuff like that. So William Randolph Hearst, his money mostly came from the newspaper industry. And at the time, he's getting his newspaper from trees. But hemp, marijuana, when the leaves and the stalk and stuff like that can be turned into things, clothing and paper. And it was cheaper to get hemp paper than the paper from trees. That would have undercut William Randolph Hearst and put him out of business. So he schmoozed the right people who make the rules and regulations. Next thing you know, marijuana is illegal, and hemp. So he continues to prosper. The hemp-based newspaper business goes out of business. And then they tied it to, the blacks and the Chinese, they smoke the reefer and they want to rape the white women. Look, if you smoke weed and you want to rape somebody, it ain't the weed. All right? If somebody told you, hey man, Every time I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I pull my pants down and put fruit in my ass. You're going to be like, well, it ain't the PB&J. Don't blame it on the PB&J. Milli Vanilli said blame it on the rain. I say don't blame it on the PB&J. You got other things going on. Marijuana, the only thing that's going to do is make you lazy and hungry. Now, I do want to keep it away from children because I think it stifles their motivation. It messes with the development of their brain. But again, we're talking about children. Same thing can be said for alcohol, any other fucking drug. Alcohol is a drug. And as long as alcohol is legal, that weakens your argument against legalizing marijuana. Now, it's not legal on a federal level. It's just for medicinal purposes. Well, Jericho, this is how it starts. Well, if marijuana were to be legalized, I'm not tripping. I live in a state where it's been legalized. It's not our problem. It's not even fucking close. And I don't think it would be for America either. You're not going to see this huge uptick in adolescents smoking weed. You can get weed. How many of you smoked weed when you were kids, when you were teenagers, in states where it's not legal and never will be? Let me tell you another funny story about weed. So I was in high school, senior prom. Me and my buddy David, he was my best friend. So we put our money together and go to see this guy named Rob who had the best weed in town, man. So we get an eighth of weed from Rob, and it was beautiful. It had the crystals and the hairs, and it smelled good. It was sticking to the inside of the bag. You know what we're going to do to this marijuana after prom? So we go, pick up our dates, the pictures, the corsages, the boutonnieres. We're on our way. We go to this really fancy restaurant in Santa Cruz called the Shadowbrook. And I remember ordering a root beer that was $2.50. What the fuck, $2.50? That was in 1998. So we eat. And we go to prom. It was at this place called the Coconut Grove in Santa Cruz by the boardwalk. Had a great time. A friend of ours, she drove. She had a minivan. So we pack in there. Hey, David. And David had the weed on him. We should have left it locked in the car, but David had the weed on him in his inside jacket pocket. Dave, where's the weed at, man? Let's go. All right. And then Dave starts doing this. He starts doing the self-pat down. Oh, shit. David, where's the weed? Man, it was right here. Start patting it down. We start looking around. Then we get to the point where you're looking in places. You know that shit's not. Why are you looking in the glove box? You know it's not in there. Why are you looking in the little pocket behind the seat? You know you didn't put it in there. So then we have to admit, David lost the weed. So we had no weed to smoke after prom, after senior prom. I get to school on Monday. I'm telling this story to the people that sit at my table. Somebody from another table, this dude named Shane. Cool ass dude. His dad was a teacher. Shane says, hey, did you guys eat at the Shadowbrook? I said, yeah, we sure did. He said, man, I found your sack of weed on the stairs. Sorry, man, but I smoked it. You're not mad, are you, man? Well, of course I'm not mad. What do you think I would have done if I found an eighth of sticky icky on the steps at a restaurant on prom night? I was like, nah, Shane, we're cool, man. I laughed. It was funny. I was like, well, at least somebody I'm cool with got it. But kids can get marijuana. Unfortunately, they can get hold of a lot of drugs. They can get into the liquor in your liquor cabinet, which we all fucking did. If they're going down that path, they can get a hold of pills. So legalizing the marijuana for medicinal research and whatnot, not a big deal to me. Even if they legalize it at a federal level, it's not a big deal to me. I really don't give a shit. As long as you keep it away from kids, I could care less what an adult does to themselves. Think of the things you've done to yourself. I'll think of the things I've done to myself. Weed is not very high on the list, if it makes the list at all. But talk to me, Goose. What do you think? Jericho, you're wrong. Marijuana does A, B, and C to your brain. You shouldn't do it. Do you agree? That's why I'm going to talk to you, Goose. Meet me in the comments. But you know how it goes. I try to be done with the left, but they just won't let me. I'm out.